if you have your identity in one thing, what happens when that's gone? What happens when that's gone?
So the definition that I have for failure is one of failure is not finite. It is long lasting losing.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between taking a loss and failing in something.
Yeah.
We all lose sometimes. Some of us more than others, like
Mm-hmm.
myself. You just get used to losing. But you don't fail. You don't quit. So trying to differentiate between those two things. Failing is a mindset more than
Mm-hmm.
it is an outcome,
Okay. Yeah.
and so I want to talk more about that mindset. But I think Zach can give us a really good understanding of maybe the failure mindset. What do you have for us, Zach?
First off, I loved what you just said right there. That is huge. If the listener could pick that nugget up right there, there'd be so much that they would glean. That it's a mindset. It's not a person. It's not an identity. It's an event. And how you choose to think about an event is what causes the damage. Failure only has its sting, at least the way that I view it. Failure has its sting only when I quit.
I think kind of going along with this idea of it's a mindset. I think one of the things that we can do when we're looking at failure is having a mindset of viewing it as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity. Yeah, you took a loss. Yeah, you're down. Something happened and it didn't go your way. Maybe it was a significant loss. Maybe it did shake your identity. But I think if we approach it with the idea of it being an opportunity, I think we have a much greater chance of succeeding. Right.
Sure. Yeah. And so you brought up an interesting point there. A few things that I want to get back to. And you mentioned taking the opportunity and relooking at reframing
Mm-hmm.
your loss or failure there. And what it really was a loss, right? It wasn't a
Yeah.
failure. But I think that to add a little bit to the conversation here is that, it's so easy for us to look at losses or failures because, it looks like an L in the win column.
Yeah.
And we see opportunity, it's easy for us to see opportunity to grow from our losses. But if we started reframing losses and wins and say there's an opportunity to learn from both of them,
Mm.
because we should focus on the process and not the results or outcomes,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have such a hard time with losses and we wouldn't really think about failure
Yeah.
because we would see opportunities to grow in both the things that turned out well
Yeah.
and the things that don't turn out well for us.
Our focus is on the process, not the results.
Yeah, so I was going to share something. We're talking about systems and process. So one of the things that I personally view failure as is it's a catalyst.
Mm.
It's a catalyst for me either to move forward and progress or for me to stay here until I learn the lesson.
Mm.
So one of the ways that I help myself move forward, going back to what you were saying, David, on wins and in losses, is something I'm stealing this from my mentor, but it's called PDCA. Plan, do, check, adjust.
Mm.
I PDCA and then I go back through it. I evaluate it and I go back through it.
Yeah, and that simply is the problem solving process. You identify a problem, you plan a solution, you take action, and then you evaluate
Mm.
and create a feedback loop. That's essentially all you're doing. And that is the way that we actually solve the problem of failure. That's what it is. It's a problem. But it's also how we solve the problem of winning. Any problem can be solved using what you just said, Zach, that simple technique. So I think we've talked about two different things here. And I think it's important to try to differentiate. So, Zach, you brought up the why question, and that's really digging down to the philosophical level or existential level of who we are, what's our purpose maybe, right? Is that what you're trying to get at, I think, maybe a little bit more?
do agree.
Okay.
Again, it was building off of the idea of how do you define failure? What's the purpose of failure?
Sure. So I think there's that deeper level there, and then we use the problem solving process, essentially, like what Zach said earlier, to try to correct when we know we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And we just have a failure or a loss
Yeah.
here or there, and that we have to correct, or wins that we have to correct. But we ask those why questions, right, of ourselves to really figure out if we're on the right path first. So. So I just wanted to give our listeners maybe that little bit of a key takeaway from there.
Yeah, that's a good clarification because, maybe we're going in the wrong direction, and yeah, we can evaluate it and see, well, maybe I could have done this better, but should we? Like, is it really worth it? Is this one thing really worth our time and investing in? And I think that's a good clarification. You got to set out first is this worth pursuing? Okay, it is. How do I do it better? I think that's good. That's great. Yeah. I don't know. Do we have any more insights on that?